class. What I'm doing now is what I promised to do a couple of weeks ago, and I'm doing my best to keep my promise. That is, this is the pre-class time. I noticed that the clock, as usual, doesn't work. This is a real postmodern world. Anyway, it's about 15 minutes before we start. And what I've decided to do is give a little 10-minute, 5-minute, 3-minute talk about what we're going to do and to sort of summarize where we are in the class. Now, I don't quite remember why I decided to do this, other than I get here and I wait for the class and I get a little bored. But I think intuitively, I think it's a good idea. Okay, let me sort of start at the center and work to the sides and try to keep it under 5 minutes. Okay, what we're doing these weeks is discussing what is called, in technical jargon, ontology. I hope it's spelled right. It is spelled right. And what we mean and what the tradition means by ontology is levels of reality, or the structure, the real or structure of reality. You could also call them, I want to grab a word here, you could also kind of call them categories. You could also call what develops from ontology oppositions, or I can never say this in English, but I'm going to do it right this time, binaries, I think, or dualisms. I mean, there's many different ways. The idea is it's two versions of reality as a whole. We've got a list of them now, and every single time I sneak in an additional one. This started by a discussion of the opposition being and becoming. Then I'm bringing in the notion of ideal and real, and attached to that is true or truth, and fiction, shadows, absence of reality, whatever you want to call it. Also, the ethical dimension, good and not good, corrupt in some way. Now, there's yet another one, that is to say, the beauty, and the opposite of beauty, whatever that is. I just put ugly, but who knows if that's right or not. Okay, basically what I'm saying, putting it in really simple terms, is that this is like a template. These things are like a template. They are the very most fundamental of the way philosophers understand human life. Put it as simple as possible. Now, our course is moving kind of both back and forward. Back here in my camera chat is going to follow, I hope, more or less. Now, starting with the Big Bang, which is roughly 12 billion years ago, but obviously we didn't spend too much time in that. It's a philosophy course, not a cosmology class or astronomy class, but we spent a third of the term, a third of the semester on classical antiquity, which I broke into 3 different divisions. One is what I call Mediterranean mythology, and you probably should not call that classical antiquity. I mean, it brings up all kinds of problems, but I want to just give us a starting point. Okay, we focused on first Socrates and Plato. I won't go over what we actually read. It doesn't really make any difference at this point, because I want you to see this as a whole. And we didn't mention the sophists, we didn't mention the pre-Socratics. If this were a course in Greek philosophy, we do a lot. We show the continuity between here, 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 here. And then the third leg of this is Aristotle, otherwise known in my sort of perverse lexicon as Ari, because he's so hard. Okay, so that's stretching back. Stretching, moving forward, we are doing what I call Judeo-Christianity. And the way I've arranged this is to work some on Genesis 1 and 2, then the Beatitudes, and then a tiny little bit of Augustine. The whole point here, the whole simple point is that there are connections and great differences between classical antiquity and Christianity, and that's what I'm trying to establish, that there are similarities and there's differences. You can easily understand those similarities and those differences by looking at these things. It's at once, because it's whatever, 1,500 years. It is necessarily complicated, but it is also not really so difficult to understand. Now, moving forward a little bit, once we polish off, as it were, Judeo-Christianity, then we are into full modern times. That is to say, the more or less early 17th century with Descartes, who I'm calling Rene the Rationalist, and then we'll close sort of with German 18th century Enlightenment philosopher. We'll read Wasser's Aufklärung, or What is Enlightenment, and then, as you might guess, the final philosopher will be me. How could I do anything else? Okay, so that's it. That's basically our course. It's like an overview of Western humanity from the very beginning to the sort of high point in Greek classical antiquity, focused on the structural account, moving into Judeo-Christianity, and basically looking at modern times to see how these two, how antiquity and Christianity, and I really mean Judeo-Christianity, I don't mean privileged Christianity exactly here, blend together and give us modern times with the key element is science and technology. So this is the whole thing. This is where we're going here, from the Greeks to Judeo-Christianity, using these as lenses, ending with the attempt by the very best modern thinkers to integrate classical antiquity and in its strong points, Judeo-Christianity in its strong points, with the new scientific and technological reality, and make some sense out of all that, which I hope will be